start.
The underground travel.
9 weeks left. Question answer. Ali, it's great to meet you. Thank you for your time.
Guil.
We've had a short chat, and I think before we just launch in, quick question. You may have already answered this, but for Ali's awareness, who has traveled here from outside the UK today? Right. And who's traveled from outside London? So reasonable, and the rest of us, we're assuming, are closer by. So we have a good global audience today. So we had a short chat. You said more Paxman than Oprah, but we're going to do a little bit of both. If we can start with your background. What is it in your early years through university and post that compelled you to enter the medical sector, the healthcare sector?
I guess I could do two things here, Guil. I could do what a lot of people do, which they get somewhere and then reconstruct the past. Or I can tell you the truth, and the truth is complete luck. There was no plan to get into healthcare. I, like you, had a series of knee surgeries. I was an investment banker with Goldman Sachs. My first child was born, and I decided that I'm going to become a full-time dad. And 6 months of gaga goo later, I decided that's the hardest job on the planet. And I was doing a series of knee surgeries. I used to do a lot of sports and had a problem with my knee. And then the hospital that did it was a great private hospital in the UK, and I thought, if that's the best hospital we have privately, surely we can build better than that. So I built a chain of hospitals. We got lucky. Today is the largest private chain of hospitals in the UK. Is one of the largest in Europe, and from there, kind of thought that by the time you get people into a hospital, it's almost too late. It's kind of what we used to do with our cars. We used to drive them until they broke down. We took them to mechanics and a garage that fixed it, and we thought that, oh, we don't do that with our cars anymore. We now have buried so many sensors in our cars that can continuously monitor it and predict when something is going wrong, alert us so we can intervene early. And that was the genesis of leaving one baby that I loved very much to create the next.
Incredible. So that's an interesting segue. 2013, you launched Babylon. You said you were really 2014, because 2013 you were playing around. Can you talk about that genesis, those early days of Babylon for everyone here?
Certainly. I think our concept was, can you make healthcare accessible, affordable, put it in the hands of everybody on earth? Can we deliver most of the healthcare most people need on the mobile phones they already have? And in 2014, 13, that seemed much harder than it does today. And it takes a lot of time to kind of build something from scratch. I lesson and learn from what Ozma was saying about how you should really create something new as opposed to try to incrementally do better than what already exists. But and that is very, very true. But when you create something new, most people don't believe it. They can be done. And therefore you start doubting yourself. So I think, and it's very easy to believe your own nonsense, to drink your own Kool-Aid. So I think it's important that at the beginning, to kind of, given the intellectual rigor it needs, I did my PhD in physics, and one of the lessons I learned was that never believe your own theory until you can prove that it works. And it's as true in building a business as it is in science.
Of course, and that proof of concept is quite critical. We're now, everyone in the room would be familiar with OpenAI's tech that suddenly became famous 6 months ago. But it's been worked on for years. But actually, Babylon started even before OpenAI. So you were engaging in fiction, in a way, right? Untested technology that existed in science fiction novels, essentially, quite early. So what compelled you to go from just democratizing healthcare, making it available to everyone in the world, to actually looking at technology as that solution, not just the phone, but the AI sitting behind it?
So if you look at healthcare, and I think that is true in everybody's industry, the question is, what are the drugs? If you want to make healthcare accessible, affordable, put it in the hands of every person on earth, which was our mission, you kind of think accessibility is almost easier. As long as we can make healthcare, most of the healthcare most people need on devices they already have, that's highly accessible. We do that in Rwanda, one of the financially, of course not culturally, but financially poorest countries in the world. You can get to talk to a doctor within minutes in Rwanda. If you can do it in Rwanda, you can do it anywhere. That was for us the important thing. The problem is there's no accessibility without affordability. How do you make something super affordable? And to do that, you need to understand where the costs are. And in healthcare, the costs are fundamentally in two buckets. 2/3 of all our costs are in salaries. Doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals, for good reasons, are the most expensive part of care. If you have to do everything with humans, then it is almost impossible to substantially reduce costs. So that was one thing for us, is how much of what a human being do can we automate? And automation is a byword for AI. I mean, that's all AI does. And the second thing was, believe it or not, 70% of all our costs in healthcare is on predictable, preventable diseases. If we see them early, we can act early, we can prevent a $10 problem becoming a $1,000 solution. And again, so everything we did was, can I collect enough signals on you, data from you, to predict, to alert early, to intervene early? And when I do intervene, can I do as much of that automatic through automation without a human in the loop? So today, 40% of all our interactions with people has no human in the loop, zero. Incremental cost of delivery, near zero, right? And then the rest, of course, we're working on.
So let's go to prevention for a moment. If I had gotten a message from Babylon Health on a Sunday saying, don't go play football, maybe I'd be walking to, right? So we know this. But
yeah, your life, though, would have been much less fun.
So we need some balance.
It's not just safety, it's also quality of life.
Of course, but it does require a choice by an individual in the first instance, right? So that an individual has to engage proactively with the technology in order to receive a preventive diagnosis or preventive set of care points. Is that fair?
That is fair. It's also fair to say, because I now live in the United States, and one of the things that now I'm half American, one of the things that we're very good at is publicizing or marketing what we don't already have, right? So I don't want to...
You're brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to pretend that we got this worked out here. We got a long way to go to actually be able, because human body is super complex, and one bad signal is not necessarily a bad thing. There are human beings who can smoke all their life and nothing happens to them. And there are human beings where things do. So you have to balance the quality of life versus the safety of life. So I just don't want to pretend that we got this figured out. And we would be a very, very long way away from being able to tell you whether you should play football or not.
Well, I think we know the answer to that. There's no question. So we're on the journey. There's still two pieces of the puzzle there. There's the human behavior that has to change, right? So one is maybe trusting the technology, but two is just engaging with it in the first instance. So going to the Rwanda example, how did you get people to even engage in the first place? How did that come about?
So one that came about, and then how people got engaged with it. One that first came about because we all talk about global expansion. We all talk about serving everybody. But when it comes to the time of making the decision, we all often take the easiest path. So we say, I want to build a global company, but then we say, well, what is a country that is closest to my country, France, Germany, or wherever, and let's just go there. But what do I learn from a country that is immediately just the same as my country? Almost nothing. If you want to truly learn how to be global, then you want to kind of go almost to somewhere that is diametrically opposite, to say, can I actually now learn this one? And then from Rwanda, we went actually to Far East, and then from Far East Asia, We went to Canada and then United States. And it was always about, can I learn enough to globalize? So we went to Rwanda because it was diametrically different. And we thought if we can solve the problem for a rich country, if we can solve it for a poor country, then it really makes us unique. And what we found in Rwanda, and what I found as an immigrant in my life, personal life, is look, I was young, and of course I'm old now. I used to be an insider and a native in my country of birth, and then I became an immigrant in United Kingdom, and now I'm an immigrant in the United States, so I'm an outsider. I was rich enough, then I became super poor as a refugee, and I'm rich enough again. And one of the things I learned is it doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, young, old, insider, outsider. You have exactly the same needs and the same desires. You just have different opportunities. That's all it is. And if you believe that people have the same needs everywhere, then this idea that this is just for the rich or this is just for the poor is an absolute nonsense. And you just basically serve every human being as if they're human beings. And that's the genesis. So if you believe that this service works in the United Kingdom, then why shouldn't it work in Rwanda? If you believe a mother and a father in UK want the best healthcare for their child, a mother and father in Africa want the same best thing for their child.
So still tapping into the individual desires of what people want changes behavior?
Absolutely. That's why OpenAI, in a space of no time, went to global usage because it served the need people had. It didn't invent any.
And part of the AI questions that exist is about trust.
Yes.
Right? So how do you build trust in Babylon Health for people to utilize the application and trust the outcome that they receive, whatever the response is?
So there are two schools of thoughts about trust. One is that you need to earn my trust. I don't know you. I'm going to stay separate until you earn my trust. And people think often that a company needs to earn somebody's trust. I'm of the other school of thought. I once was lucky enough to have dinner with a wonderful actress that you all know, and she said to me that she approaches life loving every person that she meets. She thinks that this person can be my lover until the bastard disappoints me, she said. Otherwise, I'm there. And I just think that, and that's a much better way of approaching life. If I just meet you, I assume you're going to be my best friend until it proves otherwise. And I think that there are enough human beings who actually are looking for companies for services they can trust. They don't start with being suspicious. They don't start with this mentality that I'm going to hate this, right? You and I did not go and join OpenAI, that you said, thinking they're going to steal my data, they're going to do this. We just serve something and we're going to do. The offer we gave people was simple. If you want to approach a doctor, you can go and do the usual way of making an appointment, waiting for a week or two, traveling there, all that kind of thing. Or you can talk to somebody on a video within minutes. To me, the difference in these two is so huge that it's almost a no-brainer. It took us a long time to persuade private companies or insurance companies to do it. It took us a long time to persuade NHS to do it, for instance. But when NHS did it, it became one of the fastest, I heard, the fastest growing service in the history of the NHS. It went from 2,000 people to 100-something thousand people overnight almost, right? And it grew actually so fast that we had to curtail its growth. So, I don't know, maybe I'm just, it's my nature, but I think people are more trusting than we all give it credit to. But with that trust comes huge responsibility. it comes, you cannot break that trust, right? And you have to then earn what people have given you by.
Of course. So the other slight question I have on AI, and particularly with your application, which is a game changer for the world health opportunity, right? Everyone, everywhere, as you say. The more people that use it, the more effective it is. Would that be a logical conclusion?
Yes. Although I think, and we can talk about that because it's relevant to your company. I hate talking about my own company when somebody gives us the opportunity. People are interested about what the application to them would be. So if I broaden that a bit, I think we just saw the advent of something fundamentally revolutionary in the world of technology. I think almost forever what we've had was the cost of almost everything in technology collapsed, while the cost of creation of software went up. And that's why vast majority of people stayed out of it, because creating software was something very technical, and as a result, it became very expensive. I think we all of a sudden now have the opportunity of the collapse of the cost of creations of software. And that almost kind of changes everything. Part of me really says what I should do is leave all my legacy beside and if I want to build something new, I need to start it from scratch, even within my own. But almost like there is now a real balance between how much legacy do you have in your software that is actually no good versus the opportunity to rebuild on a very new way. Try this at home, it's super easy. Even on something like making a film, you can use ChatGPT to write you the entire script. It's not hard, it just is a bit of a conversation you give it. Then you can go to Mid-Journey and get it to create you the characters. Then you can go to one of the animation softwares and give it the script and the characters, and it will make you a whole film. And you can make a film now in an hour. You can make a short film in an hour. Now think about what that means. I'm using this as an example. The biggest studios like Disney today spend about $1 million a minute to make animation. $1 million a minute in today's technology. With what I just described, you can make animations for $100 a minute. Just think about the disconnect. Now think you're Disney, and you have the entire infrastructure of $1 million a minute. And Johnny comes on the side and can build this for $100 a minute. We are about to see, almost in every industry, a fundamental displacement of everything that was solid, that we took for granted. And for all of us, of a certain age, where our companies are of a certain size, the question is, do I focus on the new, or do I try to pump up the old? And that's a very hard decision for everybody to make.
Of course, legacy, we always want to be bought into what we built, right?
Yes.
Now, I think it was last week, PwC announced $1 billion investment in OpenAI. And one of the questions was, is this a replacement technology for accountants? Sorry, any accountants in the room. Or is it an enhancement or an efficiency? And how do you see AI, if you drive it into the professional services industry as an example? Where does it go? Because it obviously can increase the heart rate for some folks who might feel replaced by, as opposed to service enhanced, or improve efficiency. How do you see that, Jeremy?
So I think it's all of the above. The politically correct answer is that absolutely do not worry, it just enhances your role. I think that's complete nonsense. I think it will eventually replaces a lot of the roles. I think it has the possibility of creating huge displacements in our economy. I think it also has massive possibility of creating huge at-scale, industrial-size misinformation that can dislodge the way our society is. Just think about what I told you about making films. Imagine now making films of our politicians doing something really wrong and making it look so believable and distributing it widely through social media. So I think that this AI that we are unleashing, at the very least, will fundamentally displace big chunks of our economy and will create significant economic instability. Like every other economic instability, I was just talking to Cyrus and he was telling me that in any difficulty, there is also an opportunity. So there will be people like OpenAI who will create businesses out of nothing and will do fantastically well out of it. But let's just have no delusion about this. There will be businesses that will collapse. I'm sure you all noticed yesterday what happened to the share price of education companies. Pearson lost 10% of its value yesterday because people will learn education in a fundamentally different way. It's not going to be the way it used to be. So I just couldn't be among friends. We're all fellow business people. We are now working at a rate that what I know today is almost half of what I will know in 2 years' time. That's just the reality of the way knowledge is exploding. Just do the maths on this. That means what I know in today is only a quarter of what we know 5 years from now, and is only 10% of what we will know 10 years from now. We all know that it takes 10 years to build any business. So the question is very simple. Do you build a business based on 90% of the future's knowledge and reality? Or do you build it on the basis of the 10% of the future's knowledge and reality, of what matters 10 years from now? And the reason we see all these kids coming in, Zuck was 20 years old when he created Facebook. Mm-hmm. So was Steve Jobs and Bill Gates when they created their companies, right? The reason these 20, 21, 22-year-olds create these massive companies is not because they're clever, they work harder, or any other myth they create. It's because they're unhindered, they're not lumbered with all the problems you and I are facing in everyday running our business that is an irrelevant part of the future knowledge. Because they have none of that and none of this hassle, they focus on what it is that is the next thing that is taking off, right? It is a myth that you have to be 19, 20, 21, 30 to do that. Anybody can do that. It's just that whether you're going to put your focus on what is coming new, or you're going to just double down on what used to exist.
Good. I was feeling very old there for a moment. I was going to throw in the towel and quit.
No, anybody can do this. Actually, some of the richest people in technology and some of the people who've taken most of the benefit of technology are people our age, right? They've done phenomenally well.
And that goes to the opportunity side. So we can see the disruption of all technology. We've lived through a pretty disruptive stage of technology in retail, travel industry, all sorts of things have been disrupted by the internet, historically, web, etc. Now we're on AI. The opportunities, where's the upside? What's the big positive if you had to put that forward?
I think opportunities are everywhere. Let's just think about the world we're in. We just started the advent of new generation of computers, quantum computing, that even the models that exist today are 100 million fold faster than the fastest computer we have. So think about it. All this OpenAI, everything we talked about, all the AI we have today is running on processors that are 100 million fold slower then if quantum computers come, right, think about what the effect of computers and processing powers that are 100 million fold faster will be. Or then you add to that the fact that we're moving from predictive analytics to prescriptive analytics. So our ability analytics is going from what is going to be done to how it's going to be done, where it's going to be done. The predictions that is far more prescriptive than what it used to be. Then you have on mobile telephony, our connectivity is going from 5G to 6G. So that means we're going to be 100 to 1,000 times faster to connect that processing power to our pockets, to our abilities. Then you have advance in robotics. That means that we can take that power, if you want, and bring it to the physical world by connecting it to robots, right? And just think about what technology will do. Imagine. Then you add, and by the way, I'm a huge believer that if the last 50 years was defined by technology, the next 50 years will be defined by biology. So think about what we can do today in biology, not tomorrow, today. What has happened already? We've all seen, starting with robotics, a monkey that can be connected via brainwaves, not physically, to arms, robotic cyborg arms in 6 different continents, and basically move objects by just thinking it in 6 different continents, right? Simultaneously at the same time. We've created a fish that can be of any color. We created a rat that can sing like a bird by injecting the genes of a bird into its throat. We have a worm that can live 10 years longer. We have a mice that is 10-fold more intelligent by changing the brain blockers in it. We have created a tomato that doesn't age. And 2 months ago, the scientists in 2 identical twin mice, they reversed the aging process and made an old mice young. None of that is science fiction. All of that is happening today. And 3 weeks ago, we took a dead organ of a pig and made it live. Dead as a dodo, you could have eaten that thing, and we brought life back into it, and it started growing. This is all what exists today. So when you talk about opportunity, all of what exists today hasn't become commonplace. And there will be entrepreneurs that will take any of these inventions and will make the huge fortunes of tomorrow out of it. There's no question. So there has never been more opportunity than there exists today. And on the other side of that, there has never been more this opportunity for dislocating what it exists. And the chance for every business person, every manager, every human being is that, do I want to be here or do I want to be there? But we are all, by the virtue that you're in this conference and you can afford to come here, and I'm here, is we are all people who are massive beneficiaries of the legacy systems. And the biggest challenge for us is how do we transition to this before this comes back from nothing again.
So huge vision going forward on the biology. That's the way forward. But bringing it back to just one thing before we conclude. Here, everyone's thinking globally.
Yes.
Babylon thinks globally.
Yes.
Where's your next big market, if you had to look at it either geographically or demographically?
So, look, we're now tiny. We're still a tiny company. We are around, last year our announced results was we did $1.1 billion of revenue in a sector that is $10 trillion. What's $1 billion in $10 trillion? Our biggest focus right now is United States. $1 billion out of $4 trillion market doesn't even register. I think we have a long way to grow there. But I also think there is a fundamental problem that has just happened, which is not now, 2 years ago, which is in the middle of all of this, the fuel for growth has been taken away from all of us. The capital markets have died. There is no finance right now to grow anything aggressively. And that gives you a time to pause, to restructure, rearrange, consolidate what you have, which is what we are doing. And then the capital markets will always come back. And when they come back, we should be in a position to grow again. But that's how life is. Like 7 years of famine, 7 years of feast, goes all the way back to biblical times. And for us as entrepreneurs, as business people, is that in one can you see the green shoots of the other, and how do you capitalize on those green shoots so when the other comes, you thrive. I'm by nature massively optimistic, and I just tell you, not just for Babylon, I just think humanity it's some amazing things are going to happen to us, but it's not going to happen just because it's going to happen. It's going to happen because somebody is going to make it happen. And in the old adage, that is, if it's not you and I, then who? And if it's not now, then when, right?
So the visionary point. Thank you very much. Ali, it's great to meet you. Thank you for your time today, your insights. I encourage everyone to visit the website, learn more about Babylon, not just because of what it does, but actually the story sitting behind it that we've heard a bit of today. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Whatever.